a gesture performed, not felt. Michael is a good man, dependable, loyal, generous in the way that shows up in mortgage payments and oil changes. But somewhere along the years, he became less of a partner and more of a presence. We spoke, of course, about the dishwasher leaking or the neighbor's new car, but never about us. We slept in the same bed, but we lived in different worlds. I used to think this was just marriage, that this was what it meant to be in a long-term relationship. You trade passion for peace, intimacy for comfort. I convinced myself that I was lucky, but beneath all that gratitude was a quiet ache, a longing to be seen, to be felt. And then came Scout. Scout was supposed to be a protector. We got him after Michael's office was broken into, some impulse decision born out of fear. A boxer, strong and alert, bred for guarding. But Scout wasn't fierce. He was calm, watchful, almost meditative. He didn't bark unless necessary. He didn't whine. He was simply there. In the beginning, he gravitated toward Michael. They'd play fetch in the yard, and Scout would wait eagerly by the door for him every evening. I didn't mind. He was just a dog, another presence in the house. Another creature I cooked for, cleaned up after, and talked to more than I realized. But that autumn, something changed. It was an ordinary morning, the kind that bleeds into all the others. Michael had already left, the coffee had gone cold, and I was standing in the kitchen, staring out at the yellow leaves fluttering across our lawn. Scout sat at the doorway, still as a statue, watching me. Our eyes met. He didn't wag his tail. He didn't blink. He just looked at me, as if trying to understand something I hadn't yet admitted to myself. And then, without sound or signal, he walked over and pressed his head against my thigh. I froze, not because I was startled, but because something about that gesture shattered something inside me. Or maybe it pieced something back together. I didn't pet him right away. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, feeling the weight of his presence, the warmth of it. From that day forward, Scout became my shadow. He followed me from room to room, sat at my feet while I folded laundry, waited outside the bathroom door. When I cried quietly behind closed doors, he was there, offering nothing but silence. And it was enough. Our walks became rituals. In the beginning, I walked him out of duty, but soon those moments became the only part of my day that felt truly mine. No phone, no expectations, just the rhythm of our steps, the wind in the trees, and the knowledge that something was walking beside me, not ahead or behind, but with me. I began talking to him. At first, it felt absurd. Who talks to a dog about their marriage, their loneliness, their craving to be touched, not out of habit, but out of want? But he listened, and that made all the difference. One afternoon, after a quiet walk through the park, I returned home and found Michael in his usual spot, on the couch scrolling through his phone. I said, "Hello." He nodded. That was it. I sat down beside him and felt the space between us like an ocean. Scout came to lie at my feet. I placed my hand on his head and he looked up at me, eyes steady and sure. That night, I cried into Scout's fur. Days passed, then weeks, and slowly, I began to feel something stirring inside me, a sense of self I hadn't touched in years. I picked up old books I used to love. I began cooking for the joy of it, not because it was expected. I joined a local writing group. All the while, Scout stayed close, never demanding, just there. One evening, over dinner, Michael looked up and asked, "Why do you spend so much time with the dog lately?" I wanted to laugh or scream or say, "Because he sees me." But instead, I said, "Because it makes me feel less alone." His face stiffened. "Claire, he's just a dog." No, I thought, he's not. He's the only one who noticed I was disappearing. That night, I told Michael the truth about how empty I'd felt, about the way our marriage had become a series of polite exchanges, about how Scout helped me see what I was missing. It wasn't an easy conversation. He got defensive. He asked if I was blaming him. I wasn't, not entirely. But I was asking him to see me, to show up. His silence was long, but it wasn't cold. It was thoughtful. That gave me hope. Since then, we've had more talks, real ones. Not every day, not perfectly, but enough. And every night, Scout still waits by my side of the bed. He's more than a pet, he's a mirror, a guide, a witness to the parts of myself I had forgotten. In loving him, I remembered how to love myself. I don't know what the future holds for my marriage, but I know this. I am no longer waiting to be chosen. I am no longer disappearing. Because somewhere along those leaf-strewn trails and coffee-stained mornings, I found my way back to me. One weekend, Michael offered to come along for our walk. It surprised me. He hadn't joined me in months, maybe years. We walked the trail slowly, awkwardly at first. Scout stayed between us, silent, watching. At one point, I told Michael about a book I was reading, not a summary, but how it made me feel. He listened, he asked questions, and I felt something. Not a spark, not yet, but a soft pulse. A heartbeat between us we hadn't felt in a long time. Later that evening, Michael brought me tea, not because I asked, just because. We're not perfect, we're not fixed, but maybe we're trying. Scout still waits by the door when I leave. He still curls up beside me when I read. But now, sometimes, Michael sits too. We laugh a little more, we talk a little deeper. And when I feel the urge to disappear, I remind myself, I have the power not to. Healing, I've learned, isn't loud. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet decision to lace up your shoes and walk the same path one more time. Sometimes it's choosing to speak, even when your voice trembles. Sometimes it's petting the dog who stayed when everyone else was too busy to notice. A Scout gave me that. And every day I give myself permission to keep going, to keep choosing me. To anyone who's felt invisible, I see you. And maybe, just maybe, your Scout is waiting too. It wasn't always like this. Michael and I met during college. He was confident and ambitious with this quiet intensity that made people lean in when he spoke. I was softer, more reserved. We balanced each other. Or so I thought. We got married a few years later. It was beautiful and simple, white roses, laughter, a dance that ended with both of us barefoot. For a while, we were happy, genuinely happy. We traveled, we had slow Sundays with pancakes and newspapers and jazz playing in the background. I remember thinking, this is it. This is what real love looks like. But love, I've learned, requires tending, and somewhere along the way, we stopped watering the roots. The decline wasn't a dramatic fall. It was gradual. 1,000 tiny moments where we chose convenience over connection, where we stayed quiet instead of risking discomfort, where phones and schedules and responsibilities filled the gaps we once filled with each other. I had dreams once, tiny ones, to write a memoir, to learn Italian, to volunteer at an animal shelter. But each time I voiced them, Michael would nod absentmindedly and return to his screen. So I stopped mentioning them. Eventually, I stopped dreaming them altogether. Until Scout. Until the day he pressed his head to my leg and reminded me, without a single word, that I still existed. One rainy afternoon, I found myself in a cafe near the park, scribbling thoughts in a notebook while Scout waited beneath the table. I didn't recognize my own handwriting. It had been that long. But the words came, slowly, then all at once. I wrote about stillness, about emptiness, about a dog who filled a silence I didn't realize had been screaming inside me. When I got home that day, I left the notebook on the counter. Michael found it. He didn't say anything right away, but later that night, he asked if I would read him what I wrote. So I did, and when I finished, the room was quiet. "You feel all that?" he asked. "Every day," I said. He nodded. I had no idea. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe neither of us had truly seen the other for a very long time. And so we began again, not with declarations or grand gestures, but with questions, with morning walks, with eye contact held a little longer, touches that lingered, and with Scout, always Scout, at the center. I don't know what our future holds, but I do know this. I have reclaimed my voice, I have reopened my heart, and I'm no longer waiting for someone to save me, because I already began saving myself. And it all started with a dog who simply showed up and stayed.